Hey, what's up, YouTube? This your boy Barlo.b.theorizing, and welcome back to the Barlow Zone, home of the one and only demon hunter, King Kaido himself, sent to Azeroth. How's everybody doing today? I hope y'all feeling good. I know I am. I got a little preface real quick. I want to say I may have I may have let my deep dive into the rabbit hole go a little bit too far, and I apologize if y'all getting a little worn out with the tritoma theories and the discussions around that. I Until we get more information, I'm gonna go ahead and leave that one stewing on the back burner. No point in burning everybody out on it, right? But my brand is theory crafting, right? So I wanted to come to y'all today with one. I haven't really been working on it for a couple months, but it's something that's been in my head, some I've researched off and on, some I've thought about from time to time. And I figured with the release of the teaser trailer for season 2 of One Piece, kind of giving us a food for thought, if you will, about this one. I thought now would be a great time to go ahead and present it to y'all. And what is it? What do I want to talk about today, right? And I would like to talk about the ancient weapons, as I'm sure the thumbnail and the title probably let y'all know. Gonna come up with something there, try to get people interested. But like, what about the ancient weapons? Because they've been talked about to death, right? And I guess to the point, I would like to talk about where they are and where they might end up, right? Because everybody likes to talk about hockey and devil fruits as far as the power systems in One Piece, but the ancient weapons are kind of also a power system in themselves, in the fact that they are weapons that are advanced beyond anything that could be done currently, which means they are going to be powerhouses, kind of equivalent to nuclear weaponry, I guess, for lack of a better reference in the real world. But the ancient weapons are going to be powerful pieces in the end of the story, right? And I've been thinking about it since the end of Wano. Uh, Not every day since the end of Wano, mind you. I I keep my brain bouncing around between different theories, but every now and then I run across one that I really like, I guess, right? Something that not only tracks as far as theory crafting, but something that keeps me intrigued as well to think about from time to time. And the ancient weapons have been one of those things that have only grown more interesting to me the more we know about them. Now, just a quick rundown the ancient weapons in case by some random chance somebody who's a fan of the live action is here listening to this. For starters, I'd say if that's you, definitely check out the anime or the manga. I know 1,000 plus is a lot to get through, but if you're gonna read it, Shonen Jump will let you get through 100 chapters a day. Story's interesting enough to keep you hooked for 100 chapters a day. You can catch up in a couple weeks if you really wanted to, but that's a lot of reading and a lot of time commitment. So I don't recommend powering it out like that. But just a quick recap: the ancient weapons being Uranus, Poseidon, and Pluton. And we'll go and start with the easy one, right? We'll start with Poseidon because it is in the hands of an ally of Luffy, right? Shirahoshi and the royal family of the Fishmen could definitely be seen as allies of Luffy. The Straw Hats, when push comes to shove at the end of it, they believe Luffy is going to be the one that fulfills Joy Boy's promise and helps them get to the surface to live among everybody else, right? And hers is rather straightforward. I mean, aside from the fact it's not an actual weapon per se, more an inherited will of its own, because Shirahoshi herself is the ancient weapon, right? The ability to control and command the Sea Kings is what the power of Poseidon is. So for starters, a nice easy one here, ally of Luffy. The next two, not quite so easy. And let's go ahead and jump right into that with Uranus, right? Popular theory, and one that I find myself on board with as well, especially in terms of this theory discussion, is that Uranus is controlled by the world government, or I guess more accurately, EMO, right? And we have no confirmation. There's not been nothing in the story. We haven't seen any ship with the nameplate of Uranus, especially not one that's Uranus controlled by EMU or the Gorosei or the world government or whatever it may be, right? But popular theory is that EMU is in control of Uranus because they were very interested in this power source that Vegapunk was developing, right? So interested that they were willing to accept a traitor's version of Vegapunk into the Celestial Dragons just to get their hands on that power source. Now, the kingdom, formerly known as Lelucia, rest in peace to all of them. Kind of gotta wonder, did Sabo get them cooked? But because of what happened to Lelucia, and we could even theorize Enies Lobby because it has that same look, right? It's not unreasonable for us as a community to find ourselves believing that the devastation of those two events was the direct cause of an ancient weapon. But if they already control Uranus, right, why would they be eager or curious or anxious to get their hands on the mother flame? And an 800-year-old piece of technology, it might have been advanced. Oh man, honestly, we're probably looking at 900 plus, maybe even 1,000-year-old for the ancient weapons. But a piece of technology that old, even if it's designed at peak performance, and we kind of got a real world analog to go along with this, even at peak performance, something that old isn't going to stand the test of time indefinitely. Now, the real life analog I'm referring to is obviously the Voyager 1 and 2 probes. Been out in space for what, 50, going on 50 years. And they're just now finally starting to talk about shutting them down completely because they lack the battery to continue to send signals. And those are considered some of the best technology that NASA has produced, especially for the time. Now, not on par with an ancient weapon. All they were research vessels, right? But we can kind of look at that as far as the technological developments and what those developments might have been capable of. Because, we're looking at a weapon that is between 800 and 1,000 years old, that, Enies Lobby has been established in its current form for a fair amount of time now, right? To the best of my knowledge, we don't have any confirmation on like X years ago. We might. I'm gonna double check that. If we do, I will leave that up here. But the weapon has been used in the past, and then again at Lelucia. It's plausible to believe that it's been used outside of those two instances as well, because we got to keep in mind most of what we've seen of the One Piece world has been the little streak through the East Blue, as we were coming down to the Grand Line, and then Paradise, the New World, a bit of the Red Line, and splashes of the West Blue and South Blue through the backstories of Kid and Brook. So there's a lot of the planet we haven't seen yet. It's and possible. I'm not saying likely. I'm not saying probable. It's just possible that this weapon has been used before. And honestly, I do want to lean towards probable because that's a long time to sit on something that strong and never use it. So it's believable that the power source for Uranus may have been not fully depleted, but depleting to the point where Emu and or the Gorosei, whoever gives the command on where to send Uranus, was like, okay, you know what, we're gonna run out of juice. We gotta find something, develop something to replace this fuel source, and then oh hey, by chance, there's this uber smart dude over here who is developing a power source that is in theory supposed to be indefinite. Now, whether or not the mother flame is legitimately eternal, will always be around forever, is kind of up for debate. I feel like it depends on where you stand with the theory of perpetual motion in the real world, because they're kind of the same thing. Perpetual motion would create persistent, indefinite energy. Maybe not, tons of it like the mother flame, but it's the same idea. So whether or not it's eternal, until we get for sure confirmation, we see like 2,000 years down the road and it's still being used. It Either way, take your pick, doesn't really matter. What matters is when they needed it, the world government of the Gorosei found another power source. Right now, some like to argue, hey, there's the possibility the world government just created their own ancient weapon over the last 8 to 900 years, right? And it's possible, definitely possible. I don't want to take anything off the plates of people who are putting their time into coming up with this stuff, right? It's just when we look at the details, it's unlikely that the world government did come up with their own ancient weapon over that time, because while we might have a Gorosei that is the warrior god of science and defense, right? Talking about Jay Garcia Saturn, and now uh, Figurlin Garling, I believe, be family name first. Figurlin Garling taking his spot as the warrior god of science and defense. There's not a lot of reason to believe that they were intending to push the limits of science, right? Something that would be needed to recreate technology that is seen as hundreds, if not 1,000 years advanced. That would be what Vegapunk was doing, constantly pushing the limits, constantly testing himself, testing theories, and coming up with new stuff to test out, because that's what science is. You try stuff, you fail, you make changes, you try again until you get it right. Vegapunk was a bit of a perfectionist. I know Momo is pink, but pink compared to purple, not a big difference in my book. Vegapunk succeeded there to me, but I love Uncle Punk. What he did for Kuma and Bonnie is gonna live rent free in my mind and heart forever. So I don't feel like the warrior god of science was somebody who was trying to push the ball and advance things again, right? It was more like somebody whose job was to keep science in check. Do not let science get to the point of being as advanced as it was during the Void Century. Because once people get to the point where they may be able to make their own ancient weapons, all of a sudden your ancient weapon isn't the new that you think it is, right? So because of that, while I recognize the possibility that because there is the warrior god of science and defense, there is the possibility that they could have created their own ancient weapon. I don't think it's likely, just given the nature of the celestial dragons, the Gorosei and Emu, and what they're trying to do with suppressing knowledge. I think it's more likely that the job of Saturn and any of his potential predecessors and now Garling is to suppress the advancement of science, not be the advancement of science, as it were, right? And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, or Pluton, right? The latest one we found out about, you know, at least the confirmation of finding out about, right? Near the end of Wano, we ended up discovering, oh, hey, looks like Joy Boy tasked the samurais of Wano with protecting Pluton until the time came. And they did so good at their job that they reshaped their entire country to make sure that nobody would get the faintest whiff of Pluton being here, right? I think they tried to frame it as Crocodile had an idea after Alabasta, but I'm personally not sold on Crocodile really having an idea of where Pluton actually was, or that location would have been high priority on Crocodile's list. Sure, Crocodile would have known Kaido was in control of Wano. He would have understood, all right, I'm not cooking Kaido by myself. I'm definitely going to need some backup for that. If that was the intention he had, he was not making the moves to support that dream, right? Like, who among you would argue that Baroque's work would have stood a chance against the Beast Pirates? Like, genuinely, do you think that? I seriously would like to know if I'm the only one who thinks that Baroque works would have got packed in a half second there. But that kind of brings me to the next point about Pluton, right? I know I kind of alluded to Shirahoshi and Poseidon being the only one that is so far confirmed to be in the hands of an ally. And that is because Pluton is not active yet. And to be fair, we don't really have an idea of when Pluton might become active or even how. Because, how is Momo going to bring down these ancient walls that are hardened by the brine of the sea, the steady beating of the sea, right? It might not be as easy as fall. We might need something here. But, the various members that are now part of Cross Guild, we contain some devil fruits and knowledge and mastery of hockey here that could efficiently get the job done with bringing down the walls surrounding Wano, right? Now it's going to be collapsing Wano's biggest defense. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the samurai because it's reasonable to think as soon as those walls come down, the enemies of Wano are going to become active when they catch wind of that, especially the world government. Now that we know that they're also targeting the giants of Elbaf, why wouldn't they also target the samurais once those defenses come down, right? Because the samurai, at least a large part of the samurai, were known accomplices of Joy Boy. But, we got Crocodile, Mihawk, and Buggy. They're very reasonable to believe they're somewhere in the New World, somewhere in the vicinity of Wano, Winter Island, Elbaf, somewhere around there, because they are making a move, trying to get active. And if everybody else that's active in the pursuit of the One Piece is around this stage in the Grand Line journey, why wouldn't Cross Guild, right? So we got Cross Guild near Wano. It kind of becoming, I don't know, I'm not going to say it's becoming clear, right? Because the only people that really know are the Straw Hats, Kid Pirates, Heart Pirates, Samurai. Actually, even only some of the residents of Wano are aware of it. But, the list is pretty small, but substantial, as well as the knowledge that Luffy was here, right? With Luffy in the pursuit, of the One Piece, any stop he makes could be a point of interest for somebody else who is trying to accomplish the same task without doing all the hard work that Luffy's doing, right? So it could even just be the Cross Guild stops at Wano because they think, hey, Luffy found a poneglyph here. Turns out there is one. There is a reason for them to stop poneglyph wise. But we got the silvery tongued crocodile on this ship with some years since his little run in with Luffy, right? I am theorizing, and here is where I'm gonna fully present the theory, right? That Cross Guild is going to end up with Pluton. You know, Crocodile's had this obsession with Pluton since his introduction. It's handling Pluton is the end of Crocodile's story, right? It's been where him as a character has been aimed since day one. And then, because, you know, this is having one thing like that, like, oh, that this aspect is tied to this other character, that's kind of flimsy, right? And then, like, okay, the potential for them being in the area doesn't really do anything to shore it up, right? But I would like to go ahead and discuss the trailer for season 2 of the live action, because I think we got a couple hints. The teaser, it does seem they are taking some liberties, maybe doing some unique plot threads for some of the characters who didn't have as much page time during the Alabasta saga, right? And among those things is what appears to be Robin pressing an attack on a Marine base. At least that's what the aesthetic looks like. Just inside the doors, there are the pictures of, or the little bronze busts of Sengoku and Khan. So it's plausible to think, at least, because Robin didn't really have any interactions with a Marine base during the Alabasta saga. Now, we ended up leaving Alabasta, going into the Water 7 saga, which did involve the Marines much more. But on Alabasta, before Alabasta, there wasn't really any interaction between Robin and the Marines. So why are we getting this interaction between Robin and the Marines for the live action, right? And we know that Oda is involved. You know, he doesn't write the script or direct or none of that, but he is the final check of approval before anything gets sent. Now, whether or not he needs to sign off on whatever change they're doing is unclear. But with how faithful Netflix was in season 1, right? With how well they did trying their hardest to do an adaptation of something this loved without destroying it or changing a bunch, it gives me reason to believe that they at least highly value the input of Oda Sensei, right? So because of that, I have to believe that Oda gave permission for whatever this Robin plot thread is going to be that involves the Marines. And then beyond that, we also got the Manmare reference in Logtown in the teaser trailer for season 2. And I think with the reference to what's going on in the manga currently, as well as Robin being involved with the Marine base, is enough of a reason for me to think that, you know, maybe as a community we missed something during Alabasta, right? Maybe there was one of these little details that most people wouldn't pick up on, right? Something left undiscovered that Oda wants us to think about, because having Robin active on Logtown with the Marines is a curious decision in and of itself, because as fans we already know Dragon is going to be involved in Logtown, right? And where did Robin spend her 2 years training? So I can't help but feel like there's something we missed in Alabasta, or Oda is taking this opportunity with the live action to get us thinking about something that he's setting up in the manga right now, right? So, with all of that, I would like to present the theory that in the final war, we're going to have three factions, each carrying their own ancient weapon, with the world government having the Zeus of it all, the Uranus big old heavy mega nuke, right? We're gonna have Cross Guild in control of Pluton, and not to take anything away from Shirahoshi or the powers of Poseidon, but it just gave me chills right now thinking about the fact that Luffy and his side is going to be the only one that doesn't have this obvious weapon coming with them into the fight, right? So what do you guys think? As always, I'd love to get the input of the community. What are you guys thinking about the ancient weapons these days? How did you feel about the teaser trailer for season 2? Did it get you as hype as I am? Man, the Gumu Gumu Gatling, man, that animation looked clean, right? I'm hoping they do Fat Luffy on Whiskey Peak, do that proper as well. But what are you guys thinking, right? Like, do you think each of the ancient weapons is going to be in control or be controlled by a different faction? Or do you think Momo is going to figure out how to get Pluton free from the borders of Wano without having to rely on somebody else who may steal it from him, right? And as always, I don't know, I guess I tried the social thing at the beginning once. I don't like it. If y'all make it to this point, I definitely want to make sure y'all remember, check out the socials on X and Tumblr at Barlo.b.theorizing, and I'll make sure to drop that link to the Discord in the bio. But I hope everybody has an amazing day like I'm planning on it. And as always, much love, friends.